Sure. So that's kind of what I did my entire career is I've just been tickling my own fancy.
Hey, peeps, you have entered the Unstuck Yourself with Crystal Simmons podcast, where I have intentional conversations that raises your awareness, which releases your innate abilities and leads you to purposeful action. You know there's more to life and you're worthy of it, and yet you feel stuck. This is your sign. Unstuck Yourself with me, Crystal Simmons, certified coach, corporate facilitator, and dope human being. I'll be here every week. Will you? Okay, welcome back to the show, peeps. And today is a candid conversation, and I'm often asked how I find guests for the Unstuck Yourself with Crystal Simmons podcast. And I typically reply with, I ask the people that I'm drawn to. So when I have a conversation with a genuine, self-aware, and aspirational person, whether that's at a comedy show, attending a corporate event, or enjoying a highly satisfying food experience at a Black-owned restaurant, like our previous episode, I just invite them to a conversation with me. And God does the rest. It's really that simple. And I enjoy hearing the perspectives of peeps that are in their own world making creative shit happen in their relationships, career, overall, their life in general. It then allows us the space and curiosity to determine what we want to create in our own lives. And this conversation is no different. So Shivani Bigler is a neuroscience PhD student studying how our brains allow us to recognize each other and distinguish one another. She is ultimately passionate about understanding how people study the brain, and she enjoys telling the secrets of how science works. For fun, she does science communication gigs and plays volleyball whenever she can. We dive deeper into this. If your interest isn't piqued already, you must be listening to the wrong show. But maybe you're not. So continue to listen, and please be sure to connect with Shivani on LinkedIn. You can click the link below, but you can find her at Shivani Bigler. Her name is spelled Shivani, and then Bigler, Bigler. Also, we discuss her and her partner, James. They have a podcast, so you can actually follow her and James on IG at MixedMuttPodcast. Is MixedMuttPodcast. Mixed Mutt Podcast, and it is an Indian white neuroscience PhD student and a Chinese Puerto Rican stand-up comedian couple are forced to listen to each other for an hour. That is the description on Instagram. When you click it, you can find clips, and if it resonates with you, please dive in and show them some support and love and just appreciation. I love this episode. I can't wait for y'all to hear it. Enjoy flying from one perspective to another. Please welcome Shivani to the show. That's so funny. Welcome back, peeps, to the Unstuck Yourself with Crystal Simmons podcast, where I share my personal stuck moments and create a safe space for others to share their moments of stuckness as well. And today we're chatting with Shivani. Yay!
That's me.
And before we dive into the current dopeness of who you are, please tell the peeps about little Shivani that paved the way for the current Shivani that sits before me today.
Oh, the little Shivani. What are we talking about? Like
anything.
How little?
Whatever. So I feel like you had a thought, or maybe two thoughts. So whatever tickles your fancy.
Sure. So that's kind of what I did my entire career is I've just been tickling my own fancy. Without any like serious, clear goal. I did my undergrad in chemical engineering and I graduated in 2016. I worked a couple years, decided I wanted to do neuroscience. You know, I was kind of getting bored of chemical engineering and I got into neuroscience mostly because you know, like when like people throw something like on the Washington Post and they're like, almonds are great for heart health, or like, you know, blueberries are great for your memory functions in
Yes.
your brain. And I used to think that was just like such an absurd, you know,
Yeah.
title. How like the blueberries are going to go out of stock in the grocery stores because he put this on the cover of the New York Times. And so I wanted to know how people came to those conclusions. Like, how can you come to a conclusion like that and then tell a bunch of people, you know, what's good for their brain and what's not good for their brain? And, you know, I'm interested in my own health selfishly. So I decided to get into neuroscience because I wanted to understand how people study the brain. And then I worked a couple years in a neuroscience lab. And then now I'm getting my PhD in neuroscience.
Hey.
Yeah. So I'm here now and I'm having a great time. I'm studying social recognition memory. So the ability to recognize your friends or to spot somebody as new. And so to recognize, like to distinguish, say, a stranger from like somebody that you know, or to like take two friends and distinguish, hey, this is Bill and this is Bob. Like, that's what I do. I do that in mice.
What is the benefit of recognizing that?
I mean, there's so many benefits. I mean, there's tons of diseases. A big, like, the shiny disease is Alzheimer's, right? Dementia. You lose the ability to recognize people that you love. And so it's a really, really hot topic. And the lab that I'm working in right now, I think it was a little over 10 years ago or so. This lab discovered in mice the specific region that is important for social recognition. And the way
many things. Go ahead, keep going.
Oh yeah, no, the way they found that out is they just like turned off the function of that brain region, and then the mice forgot who's who.
Wow. Because before, how would they interact versus after they turn that portion of the brain off?
Right. So you would think in human beings, right, if you go to a party, if you just like enter the party alone, the first thing you do is you look for people you know. Because you don't just like, if all your friends are in the corner over there, you don't just go up to a stranger.
Wow.
But mice are the opposite. So it is ecologically advantageous for them to sniff out new people and make sure that they're not a threat, or to just make sure that, you know, like that could be a good mating target for me. I want to spread my genes. So, you know, they actually like take a social situation. They totally ignore the people they know, and they spend all their time investigating new people. Yeah.
That is so genius. Like my whole body is like tingling because, so I want to backtrack everybody. Like, and I mentioned this earlier about how I come to interview people on the show. And what I gain from listening to podcasts is like so many different perspectives and ways of living and opportunities for careers or enjoyment or pleasure or tickling your fancy. And you have done that. And like, I never thought of that. Like, you are so right. And I'm curious to know who that listens actually goes into a room like, all right, cool. Those are my homies over there. I know they're going to be there. Let me just look to find other people. That is fucking genius. Like my brain is like, what? Now it's like almost like a gentle challenge in doing that, because when I do look for people that I know and don't find them, I'm like,
the anxiety, the social anxiety.
Oh my God, this is so good. So for those who don't know, me and Shivani met at my husband's comedy show he was hosting, and Shivani's partner, James, he was the headliner, right?
Yeah.
With a feature. I always get those mixed up. Headliner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And the night that I went to the show, because it was, I think, 3 nights that there were, it was late and I was tired and we didn't get to hang out that much. So the next day when y'all had the show, or they had their show, you were there. I did not come out, but Devon came home and was like, oh, I got to talk to Shivani. She's a neuroscience and she's a scientist. Is that right? You use a lot of big
Yes.
words, everybody, and I'm going to clarify them. I actually wrote some of them down, even though I have a background in medicine. I was a radiologic technologist. My knowledge is slim compared to what you just shared. And anyways, he was telling me about the mice, and I was like, what? And then I had mad stories, or mad questions, I should say. And he was like, she did talk about that. Oh, I don't know. I didn't ask that. And I was like, I wonder if she would be open to be on the podcast, because I have so many questions. And just what, 5 minutes in, I'm like, yo, my life is changed already. Like, seriously. So just to backtrack, what does it look like to be, you said you were in, I can't even read my notes. Chemical engineering?
Oh, yeah.
What does that look like?
Oh. Well, oh gosh. So it was very challenging, I would say. But I was lucky because I had some really great professors who were really motivating, and you get like a mixed bag. There's some professors who just hate being there, and you just like hate that you're in this major. And like, you just have to teach everything yourself. I'm like, I'm supposed to teach chemical engineering to myself. I'm like 16. Well, I'm not 6. I'm like probably 18, but like there's hieroglyphics in the book. And then you get
that was me for statistics. My poor instructor, I was probably 17, 18, maybe 19. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And I just couldn't understand. I would go home, I would read the notes, I would try to do the homework. I would cry doing the homework because my notes didn't match with the equation for the home. I'm like, what the fuck? And I would stay after. And I remember staying after with him and him explaining something to me, and the frustration in his face of like, it probably the disappointment of him not being able to explain it to me. Like, literally, he sees me trying. I swear, Shivani, I should have probably got a F. And he gave me a C. Like, I think he just gave me a C.
I mean, you did like put in the effort to like try to show up. You tried your best to learn, and he saw that. So you don't deserve an F.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
You know? You deserve that.
I appreciate that. I was like, I can't get it. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to pivot a different way, because this ain't it. Like, I wasn't, I know.
It was either that or he didn't want to teach you for another semester.
That's so dumb, because we both have the win-win. No, like, benefit yourself too, and me. I appreciated the C, but I was like, yo, I knew I was going to fail. But yeah, so you laugh when I asked about chemical engineer. What did the laugh come from?
It was a shit show for me. I mean, like I ended up graduating magna cum laude because I worked my ass off. Wow. I worked my ass off. I was fighting so hard. Well, here's how it started. So chemical engineering is just one engineering out of a ton of engineerings, right? So in your first year, you do a general engineering class, and they ask everybody in the class, they're like, who here has no prior coding experience? And I was one of 3 people out of 200 people that at least had the balls to raise my hand. I don't know, I don't know how many of there. So I started well behind everybody else because everybody knew how to code. And then, so I had to learn how to code. And it was just like, you had to code programs to solve problems that you can't solve on a calculator. Wow. They're just so meta. You have to solve like you have to code differential equations that will solve other differential equations that will solve other differential equations. You had to find, let's say, like a problem set is like, find the concentration of this particular substance in this slab of material that is in an ocean of this other substance. At this time point, after you drop like an egg in it.
I love the visual because y'all, Shivani's like doing like the little teeny with your thumb and your pointer finger, just like tiny, and then like a bubble, and then like this massive like aura. Because my brain gave up trying to understand a few seconds ago. My brain was like, nah,
me too.
No.
But it was difficult. And then, a lot of it towards the end was just like designing like these like reactors. You put some like inputs into it. It has to like combust or make some reaction. And then you get your product that you want to sell. Right. So it was a lot of like mapping out reactors and like finding the materials for the reactors and deciding on what inputs to create the product that you wanted in the end.
Wow.
And I was like, at the end of it, I was like, you know what, this is like, I get it now. At the end, I was like, okay, I did it. I understood this. It's part of the whole, like, I wonder how the world works.
Yes.
Like curiosity that I had. And then I'm like, okay, I did it, but I don't want to design reactors for the rest of my life.
And that is a win. Because I know people would look at that and be like, wow, that's so much time wasted.
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. And life, that's what it is. Like, even if we're talking about like tickling our fancy, finding out what pleases us, or just having fun, you don't know what you don't know. So as soon as you know, then you can make a decision. Is this something I want to continue to do? No. N-O. I know a lot now. K-N-O-W.
That's right. And, I would send a message to everybody to challenge yourself, like challenge yourself to understand things that you don't know. As uncomfortable as it may be, as painful as it may be. I mean, yeah, I didn't end up pursuing chemical engineering as a career, but there's so much I know now that I'd be happy, or like I'd be so like enthusiastic to teach other people or tell other people about it.
And that's why you're here, because of that passion. But seriously, because it transferred through Devon to me, where just him, like, he was excited to tell me about the bits and pieces of y'all conversation that lit me up. And I'm so appreciative of it because, like you said, challenge yourself. I told you, like, I was intimidated. I was like, she's probably going to use a lot of big words. I don't know what the fuck she's talking about. And I still want to know because I'm just curious, because it sparked that curiosity in me. Is like, I wonder what else she knows. So I don't have a plan. Shivani and I haven't like designed how this conversation is. It is a candid conversation of just where the curiosity takes us, pretty much. So you decided chemical engineering. No.
Yeah. Nah.
And now, so before we got on, Shivani's like, I'm starting with a new experiment. So what does that mean? What does that look like?
So we just actually, like a couple days ago, so this is great timing. I guess I can plug this. A couple days ago, a collaborator in mine, like, we're co-first author on this paper. We did this experiment for 4 years. We did the series of experiments for 4 years. It just got accepted for publication. So
congratulations. Yay!
So yeah, it's a really big deal. 4 years later, we had a ton of beers last night with the lab, and now it's time for something new. But in that experiment, we just, what we had, like how in our experiments, essentially the new ones that we're doing to like play off of this whole social recognition thing. Mm-hmm. We're like, okay, well, we found this brain region the lab found this brain region that's responsible for social memory. I wonder what kind of cues they integrate. Like how do they form these memories, or how do they distinguish people?
Yeah.
How does this one brain region distinguish people?
Where is the region in the brain?
So it's in this memory hub called the hippocampus, which is, if you're in science at all, and I know you have a medicine background, you're like, okay, that makes sense. So for those of you who don't know, the hippocampus is like in the middle, like just deep in there. And it does a lot of like memory storage of like spatial navigation. So your ability to know where to go to work. And
which I need to strengthen mine more, because I use my GPS way too fucking much. Like, to the point I'm like, all right, Crystal, like, you've been to this spot probably over 50 times and you always pull out your GPS.
Yeah.
So that's going to be one of my challenge. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I know I would panic. I would panic if my phone shut off, I would absolutely panic. I went skiing with my buddies the other day, and one of them knows the whole slopes, and the other two of us like didn't know anything about this place. And so like I was clinging onto my buddy and I was like, do not leave us. He's like, we did this run 3 times, Shivani. Like, you should know how to get to the bottom of the mountain. I was like, I don't know. Don't leave us.
I love it because, like, I was just thinking this. We literally used to print out paper on MapQuest, study it, like try to get an A for that shit because you didn't want to get lost. However, took a wrong turn, you're done. Like,
oh yeah.
I remember going for an interview, and this was to get for me to get into imaging school. And the interview was at VCU. It was downtown the city. I was living in Chesterfield in the county. So I was not familiar with driving in the city, the one-ways, the parking on the street, all of that. I could do it, but it was very intimidating. Took the wrong turn, Shivani. I took my ass back off the highway to start over and get back, because all I had was the printed MapQuest. I was like, I need to start from like the middle. I didn't go all the way home, but I was like, I don't know how to figure this out. Like, they say this street, I don't even know which street I'm on now. How far away is that street from the original street? But yeah.
It was so dangerous. Yes. I remember when I was 16, I would like print out the Google Maps, the instructions. And then I was like in my Dodge Caravan 1996 or my parents' Caravan, I should say, because I was 16.
Yeah.
and like the light, it's like in the middle of the night, the light doesn't shine that bright. And I had to use my flippy phone light.
Oh my goodness.
So I had like the instructions on the steering wheel. I was also short. And I was like trying to hold the instructions up. I was trying to shine the light. I was trying to read it and also be on the road at the same time.
Hilarious.
I was like a new driver. I was 16. I just remember like thinking like, God, this is dangerous.
But I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean? Like,
but I don't have it. Like, I don't know how else to do this. I can't just keep pulling off to the side.
That is so funny because I remember using those printed out directions during the daytime. I didn't even think about at night.
Dude, the night
Obviously, I was like, I'm not going nowhere new at night. I'm just not.
That's good. That's smart. I wasn't, my executive function wasn't fully formed. So.
Okay. Sorry. So we got off to a tangent.
I know, but I love it.
But we talked about, I asked where that portion of the brain is for us to recognize people, right?
Yeah. So your medicine background. So, the hippocampus is important for learning and memory, especially spatial navigation and context. And everybody knew that for like probably 100 years. 100 years, everyone knew it. But there was one tiny little brain region in the hippocampus. It's called CA2.
CA2.
Yeah. And it's much tinier than the other regions. And nobody knew what it did. And so for 100 years, everybody ignored it because the cells in that brain region, every brain region has cells, but the cells in that brain region didn't act like the cells in the other hippocampus region.
Wow.
So everyone's like, well, the cells don't act the same. I don't know what it does. People have like tried to like silence it. And they're like, oh, the spatial navigation's fine. They try to manipulate it. They can't figure out what it does. And so everybody ignored it for 100 years. And then my boss, who's a genius.
Yes.
He like 10 years ago before I joined, figured it out. He had like a graduate student run like 1 trillion tests, just 1 billion trillion tests. And where they like closed the brain, they turned it completely off and they're like, something should happen, right? And nothing happened in the billions of tests except for one test. And that was social memory.
Wow.
Yeah. So their motor skill, like if you turn off the brain region, their motor skills are fine. Their spatial navigation's pretty good. And
wow,
everything else seems to be okay. So what we did is like, we said, okay, in the mice, what we did is like, if I could describe it in the way that we would do it in humans,
Okay.
We recorded the cells. So we looked at the cell activity. We used this like lovely like technique where we can like video record the cells, like just like
That's
have
crazy.
like there's like 100 cells in the view, and they light up. They actually like produce light every time that they activate based on the technique that we have. Yeah. So we see these cells jumping in and out of light, you know, just like light, 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 light. So we know that they're like
lightning
working.
bugs.
Yeah. They're like, exactly. So we can video record that in a live mouse while the mouse is doing a task. But like, say we did that in humans, what we did is like, we would give a face of Bob and we'd give a face of Bill. Okay. And we'd say like, this is Bob and this is Bill. Now I'm going to show you Bob. Now I'm going to show you Bill. And now I need you to distinguish. And every time you say that this is Bob, I'll give you a cookie as a reward.
Gotcha.
So it's like, oh, Bob came up. It's like, that's Bob. Here's a cookie. And then like Bill would come up and you'd be like, that's Bill, but you don't get a reward. But like you'd be able, as long as you say that's Bob, you get a cookie when Bob comes up. So we did that in mice, but mice use smell, not sight. So we give them a smell of Bob and we give them a smell of Bill.
Nice.
And every time they smell Bob, they have to like lick a water port for a water reward. And they're like a little bit like dehydrated. We have to. Oh, it's kind of sad, but they're like totally healthy. Yeah. But like every time Bob like it comes to their nose and they can sniff Bob, they have to lick a little water port and then water comes out and they get like a reward. So that's how they distinguish Bill and Bob. So now I'm working in a disease model. It's like a genetic model of a disease where the mice have like no social recognition.
Gotcha.
So I'm looking at the cell activity in their brain to see if it's different from normal, typical mice who like can have social memory.
I'm just so curious, like, how long do you do this for and what excites you while you're doing it?
The discovery. So like mostly the cutting edge technique that like where you can video record the cells and like you can see them like you can see them activate in real time. It's just in front of your face on a computer. The mouse is right over there. And they're participating in the task where they have to lick a port for water and they're like super engaged because they want the rewards. And you can watch the cells light up in real time and you can like see like, wow. And it's just like, it gets really creepy. It gets really creepy because you can use machine learning. You can say like, here are some videos of the cells while the mouse is smelling Bob and the mouse is smelling Bill, regardless of the reward. Here's the cells when the mouse smells Bob. Here's the cells when the mouse smells Bill.
Yeah.
And then you can take like a ton of videos that the machine has never seen before. And you can be like, here's a video. Tell me if the mouse is smelling Bob or Bill.
Wow. How in the world?
And you can even like have the mouse smell like Bob, Bill, Mary, Sam, Jennifer, whatever. And then you can be like, here's a video you've never seen before of the cells. Which one of these 5 people was
Bob?
Yeah. Or was the mouse smelling, you know?
Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
Bob, or was it smell? And then it'll spit out like, oh, that mouse was smelling Jennifer at the time. And it's just like based off of videos of jumping cells. Like it's creepy because like you can, like if you take that technique and like made it super, super advanced, and some people have started to do this, you could just by like hooking up, like, you know, if you can record the cells of a human being in Arkansas and you could sit at home, like with your machine, you could maybe figure out exactly what that person is experiencing. Are they like hanging out with friends? Are they eating food? Like if you can record the brain and you could just from your home in like Virginia, you could be like, oh, my friend is experiencing joy or pain or something.
I feel like this is one of the, I'm not going to remember the name of it, but there's a series on Netflix kind of pertaining to something like this, where, like you said, it's kind of creepy, but it is, I think they were doing it in dogs or animals.
Yeah.
I started watching it, but I was watching it while I had like an edible,
Oh
and
no.
I was like, "Is
Don't
this
do
real?"
that.
Like, and then I started laughing. Like, I was like, "I don't understand what is happening." Because the sound is so pretentious and like gimmicky, and I'm like, "Are they trying to be funny, or is this real?" Like, I'm so confused. I was like, "Devon, come here." And then he was like, "What has happened?" I was like, "I don't know," and I couldn't stop laughing. But
I hate when people make science pretentious. It's not. It's anybody can get their PhD as long as you're curious. Like as long as you're curious, anyone can do this shit. Like I can't use big words too. Like I see some pretentious people walking around. No one even likes them. Like all the scientists, all the cool scientists, nobody likes the people who are like trying to be pretentious and use big words. It's like, no. Like we don't understand what you're saying.
yeah,
Like it's frustrating. Tell us in words we can understand. Don't
thank
hold
you
us
for that.
hostage. Yeah, don't hold us hostage in like a meeting or a presentation with like words and graphs that we don't understand. You know, like scientists love scientists who can communicate in easy words. So like anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. I say
I
like,
want to
oh,
give
look
you
at
a
the
hug.
cells jumping around. Like, yeah, that's not scientific jargon. Like cells
And
don't jump, but
I love that because that
yeah,
circles back. Like this conversation has been so invigorating because, like I said, I was nervous and still got to experience you, even for a short period of time. I was like, but I'm curious too. So I felt safe to have this conversation openly. And it circles back to other people who maybe have thought that there's no way I can get my PhD, or there's no way I can go for that promotion, or there's no way I could be the CEO of whatever company I'm working with or for. Because my approach has always been your approach. Like people will say, Crystal, you're my boss, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, please stop saying that. We work together. I happen to be in this role. Tell me what you need. I will support you. That is my role. It's not that I'm at this level and then you're down here. I hated that shit. And I still wanted to speak the way I spoke. I didn't want to code switch. People would say stuff. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? You keep using acronyms or abbreviations. What does that mean again? Would it stop using a different language or speaking in code to show like, oh, I've been here for so long? Or maybe you're just doing it because you're lazy and you don't feel like saying the whole thing. That's cool too. However, thank you for saying what you just said about anybody can get their PhD as long as you're
absolutely.
curious.
As long as you're curious and you're ready to work for it, you know, like you don't have to be a genius.
Yeah.
And in fact, mostly the genius, the really big geniuses don't get that far because they can't communicate. You know,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
so
Yes. Yes.
funny.
Yes.
It's like, it's whenever someone gives a talk, in the end, like everybody who listened to the talk, like the presentation and the talk, the make or break of whether we like all come together afterwards and be like, that was a great talk, or that talk kind of sucked. You know, the make or break is your ability to communicate what you found, because in science, there's just so many fields and like nobody knows everything. And like, it's great. You should do it. You should do it if you're really curious. If you want to find out how people come to conclusions about how the brain works. Like I've been doing this for like 6-7 years now. And it's just been fun, you know?
And that is what I'm learning. The older I get, the more experiences I've had, it is, am I having fun? Like, do I enjoy it? Before it was, no, I go to school, I get a job, I work hard, and, I make money to support myself. And then it became where I was really good at what I did because I was curious. Like, I remember my boss, when I was a imaging tech working at the hospital, she walked around to the imaging department because we just did diagnostic x-rays, meaning internal with the barium if they had to drink it or if there was like broken bones, no MRI, no CT, none of that. However, for that hospital, they were starting to do dental surgery. So sometimes they would need someone from radiology to take x-rays of the teeth, like a panorama or panoramic view. And we were kind of taught it in school, but you didn't go into diagnostic doing that unless you worked at a dental office. So everybody was like, no, I'm not doing extra work. No, I don't want that. And I was like, I want to do it. Because I was curious. It wasn't to like show off or to be like, hey, teacher's pet. Like, I was like, I want to see what the fuck they're doing if they're doing dental surgery. I've never seen that before. And they ended up getting their own tech for that department because they needed that person to stay there. So I didn't get the chance to do it. However, I do think that helped my chance of promoting within that department. That was never my goal. It was just like, there's an opportunity. Hey, are you interested? Me, Crystal? Oh no, I never thought about that. And that's how that's how I became the chief technologist, where I worked alongside the director of radiology. I was the youngest. I was the only Black woman to be in that role. It was major. It was the same with imaging as an instructor. Never really thought about being an imaging instructor, but me and my sisters, we used to play school. So we would have our little stuffed animals line up. We would be the teacher, stuff like that. But it was always because I was just curious. People asked me, like, would I want to do that? I'm kind of interested. Let's see what happens. So I know you don't do all of this, like you're not in the lab all the time, but how long are you there and what do you do outside of the lab?
Sure. So I am in the lab a lot. So yeah, be prepared for that. If you do a PhD, first of all, congratulations, Crystal. Oh my gosh, that's so inspiring. But it's so true. If you like really, I mean, it's easy to say if you follow your passion, you're going to be good at it because you're just going to be curious the whole time. You're just going to be so curious, and then you're going to excel without even knowing it.
Yeah.
But only some people like really have the privilege to be able to do that. PhD programs, you don't have to pay for biomedical PhD programs. You do get a stipend. You do get paid. It's not a big amount, but it's enough to live. So if you're like genuinely curious, you can get paid to get a degree here too. But yeah, no, I first of all, congratulations. And then second of all, yes, I do spend a lot of time in the lab. I do love it though. And I think, like any workspace, it's your experience is going to really, really depend on your mentor and your colleagues.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I've got great colleagues. I've got a lovely mentor. So if you do a PhD program, really seek out a mentor who everybody loves. Don't worry about the research topic because you'll get interested in it if you are. Yeah. Don't worry about like, oh, I don't know if I'm like into microglia or whatever. You'll get interested in it if you're surrounded by people who are positive, enthusiastic, supportive. And then, so I'm here a lot. I'm here most weekends. I'm here in the lab right now. This is just like a separate room, a nice little separate room. And
it's very light and airy looking.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Columbia really invested in a neuroscience building. So it's really lots of glass.
Oh,
everywhere.
nice. Yep. Light and airy. Yep.
You won't believe how much glass. You are never alone in this building. It's just like glass.
I'm so drawn to like the sunlight and so forth. So I'm just like, when I was a chief tech, I went from when I was an instructor, actually, I had glass all around the office, but I shared the office with 3 other people. So we had those, it was kind of like a cubicle setup, but it was still glass. So the sun still came in because it didn't go all the way up to the ceiling. And then when I went to the hospital as a chief tech, Shivani, I was in a basement pretty much. No windows, just one door in and out. And I was sharing an office, but I was the only one in the office. The other desk was more so for the techs, the lead techs to come in and like work on the schedule, which they really didn't have time to do it. So they would do it in the department. So yeah, I am very keen to where is the sun? Like right now, the window's right in front of me.
I think, yeah, this probably has a lot to do with my positivity.
Yeah.
Just access to the sun. I'm not going to lie though, when you do work with mice, you have to be like I spend most of my time in a dark room because that's what makes some mice most
Oh,
comfortable. And you want to make your
gotcha.
mice as comfortable as possible. Otherwise your experiment's not going to work.
Yep.
So, but like, then once I get out of the room, like, 6, 7 hours later, then it's like, light.
It's like, a whole
Yeah.
new world.
But yeah,
So,
outside of the lab,
yes.
yeah, I love to play volleyball. Big volleyball nut.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love it. There's a whole community of volleyball players everywhere you go. Like any city I've been in, I started in the Bay Area, then I went to Boston, then I came to New York. As if you play volleyball, that's the quickest way for me to make a community of friends in a new city.
Um,
So I like to play a lot. It's kind of addictive to me.
have you always played?
Yeah,
Okay.
I took a break in college and I actually walked onto the diving team when I was in
Ooh.
college. So I did diving for 4 years, and like the swimming and diving. So like the
Hmm.
jump off a board kind of stuff. And
How did you go from volleyball to diving?
well, so during recruiting season, I wanted to do volleyball in college. And then during recruiting season, my senior year of high school, I got a huge concussion. I got hit twice in the
Oh,
head. And so like I wasn't able to, play in tournaments like second semester senior year when
yeah.
you get scouted. And then I mean, scouted for like a Division 3. I'm
Yeah,
short.
yeah,
Like I'm
yeah.
5'4". Like I wasn't gonna get scouted for a Division 1. My dreams
What is
weren't
the
like crushed.
Rex? Like what are they looking for when they are scouting? What's the
Yeah,
height?
just your ability to, I mean, Division 3, it's just like your skill. So they're
Okay.
just like, can you pass balls like that are difficult?
Okay.
I'm short, so like I'd be a passer or a setter. I wouldn't be a
Ah,
hitter. Uh,
gotcha. My parents played volleyball growing up. Like we actually had a volleyball net in the backyard. And I remember we would play in high school. And I was like, I think I want to join the volleyball team because I really did enjoy it. However, I think it coincided with basketball. Either volleyball was first and then basketball like came in the middle. So I used that as an excuse to not even try out. But I was always curious in volleyball because my parents loved it. We would play it as kids, like with them, and I wore glasses. So I was like, then I can't really see the ball. And I
mm,
hated wearing the goggles because I wore the goggles like 1 year in high school. I hated it.
yeah, it's tough.
It is. Very tough.
I was blessed with good eyesight as a kid, so those weren't obstacles for me. But yeah, that would suck if you had to like wear goggles all the time.
Yes,
Yeah,
it did.
it would get in the
So
way.
yes, and that's what it felt like. Like I wasn't as free. I felt kind of closed in, and then they have like they don't go all the way to the side. It was just
Yeah, you need that like real peripheral
yes,
vision and reaction to like anything, and you don't get that if you've got like too much bulkiness around your eyes.
yeah. And the funny thing is, even with basketball, I would just wouldn't play with my glasses. So I got so used to seeing things fuzzy, shooting, passing, all of that. So when I had the goggles and I could see my shot was kind of off, and I was like, well, this is interesting. And then that's when I was like, I don't know if this is helping or hindering because I don't want to wear them and I'm not challenging myself to adapt to being able to
That's
actually see.
that's so interesting. That's so interesting. I wonder if like having that crutch made you give you more confidence of just like, everything's blurry. So like if I just shoot it in the general direction where I see the blob of the basket.
Yes, it did. I love those words that you use. I was more confident and I felt freer. That's another thing I'm learning about myself. Um, Flying, like the word flying just gives me a sense of peace. And I love swings at the park. I love riding my bike. Now, what I do for pleasure and for just working out is pole dancing. It is so freeing to actually like learn a new move, but also just let the pole, like you could put it on spin, where a lot of times in classes they're static, but there's like a little pin that will allow you. So if you see someone like a pole dancer on the pole and they're going really, really fast, more than likely the pole is on spin. Mm-hmm. So the tighter they are to the pole, the faster they go. They throw a leg out, arm out, they kind of slow down a little bit, but it's so freeing. So yeah, I definitely feel like it gave me confidence to be able to just be like, oh, I'm just out here. There's nothing kind of holding me down or holding me back or making me feel more smaller. I'm just free to kind of just move and not being worried about the glasses being knocked off my face.
Yeah. Wow.
I used to play with my glasses, but then I was scared, like, oh, don't hit my glasses.
Right. Like you don't want it to break. You don't want like glass to shatter into your eyes.
So I was like, all right, I'm just going to take them off. So thank you for that. Cause I never had words for it and never really sat with the whole experience of it. That's why I love these conversations.
For sure. And you must be so athletic because like pole dancing is no joke.
No joke.
You gotta have like rock climbing grip strength and like
I use a lot of they have like there's this gel that you can put on your hands to help with the grip of the pole. And it's a lot of shoulders and chest and core. I remember the first couple of times I went, and definitely back, yes, where I remember coming home the next day and I was like, I would take a deep breath, but it felt tight, like I had a corset on, even though I've never worn a corset. So I'm assuming it just felt constricted. And I'm like, do I have COVID? Like, there were so many muscles that I had activated that I was like, what the hell? And it is amazing how so many different bodies can actually get on the pole and do it effortlessly and beautifully and confidently. Like there are women who are way smaller than me. There are women who are more voluptuous than me, top, bottom, doesn't matter. And I remember one woman climbed up the pole and then it was like, oh, I'm kind of nervous because for a class, we had to get together. We'd share a pole with the pole partner. And they're like, just come up with a small, quick little routine. And this couple, these two women act like they were nervous. Well, maybe they were. But she goes up the pole and then she comes down into a split. And I was like, what the fuck? Where are you nervous at? Like, it's amazing to see like older women, younger women, and their faces of either they've never done it before or they're a pro or they've been doing it forever. Or maybe they used to dance in a past lifetime. Like, it's so dope. It is so dope.
That sounds so fun. I want to do that.
You should.
If I find the time and like I find the resources, like if I do my research and find out where these poles are.
I love it. Find out where these poles
but yeah,
are.
It does sound. I totally resonate with your love of flying. Absolutely. I mean, that's why I did diving. I mean, I actually did diving because I got that concussion, so I wasn't able to get recruited. And then when I came to college, I tried to walk because at that point, I let the concussion heal over the summer. I'd lost all my muscle mass. I wasn't in the best shape, and I tried to walk on the team, and the team was full, and I didn't make it. And then the winter season, I was just like, well, why not try something new? Nice. Why not try something new? And I just went for diving. And I was like, and I just kind of took that L and took my stuff and went to a different sport.
That is so dope, because there are people that I know who only did one sport, and whether through injury or just life circumstances, where they didn't even try a different sport. They identified this was me. This is what I did. This is what I do. Now that I can't do it anymore. So
that was my story. Yeah.
Yeah. Both will give you perspectives though.
Yeah, exactly. To this day now, I took, those years off in college. And then like, as soon as college was done, I went right back into volleyball. And then I've been doing it since, 2016. Again, like that's just like second half of my life so far.
I love that. Yeah, because we're what, 2023. Wow.
Yeah.
Distance makes the heart grow fonder for volleyball.
Exactly. But
I love pickleball.
Oh, you do?
A friend of mine invited me to her son's tournament. We're in 2023. I think this is 2020 maybe, or 2021. I remember it was during COVID, but his volleyball tournament was outside. Remember we were wearing masks, and I think I eventually took the mask off because it was hot. But afterwards, she was like, do you want to play a little bit? And I had on like denim capris, didn't have the athletic wear to play, but I was like, yeah. So they're kind of teaching me the rules of how to serve, how to hit, and we did doubles. And I was like, I like this. So then she would invite me out to park. And there were a group of people who would come, either couples or people who were single, and then we were interchanged and go back and forth. And I was like, I love this. Got my own paddle, balls, and then me and my husband will play singles because we have a court near the courthouse, or the clubhouse, excuse me. And I told my parents about it, and they was like, you have to teach me, because also my parents played tennis all the time when me and my sisters were younger. We would have tennis balls all around the house that we would play with. We would play with their racket, just kind of like bouncing the ball in the racket inside the house. And when we did play in school, I was like, tennis is hard, like running back and forth. And so pickleball is like a beautiful workout where it's fun. Me and my husband are very competitive. We always start where he starts like beating me at first, but then my serve is like killer. I get into the groove of serving, and he's like, yo, why do you hit this way? Like, it's very low, it's quick. So he's not that flexible. So I use that to my advantage. But yeah, I love pickleball. And the court is smaller.
I think you would have loved volleyball.
I definitely
the paddle, anything like with a paddle or like a tennis racket, any of those sports, like whatever, racquetball and pickleball and tennis, that there's like a lot of overlap in terms of like spiking and like top spinning the ball so that your opponent like has a harder time getting it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Shivani's kind of lighting a little flame. I don't even remember the last time I played volleyball, or like even in the pools when you would go play in the water, you play volleyball. That was always fun to me.
Oh, cool.
Water sports are hard.
Water sports I cannot do. Like that water polo stuff. No, I will be drowning the whole time.
It's so much like trying to run in water. I remember working at the Y for a very short period of time. And those women who would be in class, like I remember trying, like just as a kid, just playing around, like I'm gonna run. And I'm like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Tired.
No. Yeah. I'd rather fall into the water and then just climb right out.
That's so dope. All right. So we've been talking. Right. It's been fun. I do want to highlight and bring up your podcast with you and your partner, James.
Yes.
And I'm so curious. So just share a little bit about that for me.
Yeah. So me and my partner, James. So I'm a scientist and he is a comedian. He performs all over New York City, and he travels, as you know, he travels across the United States and does some headlining gigs too. And I'm getting my PhD in neuroscience. So it's just like the collision of two wild worlds. Yes. And so if you're interested in like what we have to say about our backgrounds, as well as our wild takes, our differences of opinion on some things and whatnot, feel free to tune in. We talk about anything and everything. We talk about our personal life. We talk about what's going on in the news. We spent the first several episodes talking about, like, because we're both different mixed races, like talking about being raised in a mixed race family and our experiences with that. And so if you're interested in any of that, it's just two people, pretty much James just dunking on me a lot of the time, which is fun. Just like us, like just having a discussion every week about something feel free to tune in. I don't know if
I
I'm
would
doing
say
it any
that
justice.
that have to be a good, it has to be entertaining because, you know, being married to a comedian, I love Devon, but he don't know what he's talking about. Like, and they think because it's funny, they could just say it. And I'm like, no, that shit is stupid. Like, so, so Shivani and I have a lot in common where we are very intelligent and we're intelligent enough to know that we're not going to argue with stupid.
I'm learning how to do that. I'm learning how to say, you know what? Recognize this as stupid. Don't engage.
Don't, yes. But that's what me, like when me and Devon first got together, like he would say stuff and I would just believe it, be like, okay. And then I'm like, wait, I have a question. And then like, I'm curious because that doesn't make sense. He's like, Crystal, I'm just joking. Like, I'm like, you asshole. So now like he used to get my family all the time, just say something wild. And they're like, really? Come on. I'm like, don't listen to him. So now he actually said it the other day. He was like, I can't even get your family anymore. Like they don't believe me when I say stuff. I'm like, I have taught them well. Learn from my mistakes. Do not engage. It is stupid.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'll be like,
oh, but you didn't say the name. You didn't say the name of the podcast.
Oh, it's called MixedMuttPodcast. So if you go on Instagram, type in mixed, MIXED, mutts, MUTTS podcast. And it'll show up. And there's like a little cartoon, cartoon, whatever profile picture of
I'm gonna do it now.
Two little dogs, and one's in like a little scientist coat.
I'm typing it now. Oh, that is cute. Can I make it bigger?
I don't know.
I love your free your freeze images, like a freeze shot. These are funny with the big eyes.
Yeah.
I love it.
And we've got little flags in the background of our mixed raceness.
So what is your race that you're mixed with?
I am like Indian, like South Asian, and white.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you do any of those
23andMe's?
Yeah.
Yeah, my sister did it.
Okay.
And she we learned that we have the variant for celiac. So and like, thanks a lot, white side. Like we know where that came from.
That is funny. Now I'm curious because I don't have celiac. However, I do avoid gluten most of the time. Some of the things I'm like, I'm gonna eat it, but it does cause me a lot of bloating and I get tired and it's a lot of, so it has to be worth it for me to eat it. And I realized too, a lot of processed foods with gluten or wheat just don't do me well, period. But if I go to, like me and Devon, we went to San Diego, which I love San Diego.
Yeah.
The food is so fucking good. I had pasta and it was fine. Like homemade, I think high quality foods with gluten.
Yeah, I hear, and I went to Europe last year and the pasta in Europe apparently like doesn't really factor gluten in it a lot, apparently. And so when I ate pasta over there, I was fine. But yeah, I treat gluten like, because I definitely feel it. Yes. I treat it like drinking alcohol. It's like, if like I'm out with friends, you know, other people, good for you if you can stand up and be like, no gluten for me. Let's do everything around my dietary issue. I just can't do that. Yeah. So like when I'm out with friends, I'll treat it like, it's like, you know, I'm splurging with friends. I'm having a good time. I'll eat that pasta. I'll eat that, like whatever, like Parmesan. Yeah. What is that? Chicken Parmesan or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I'll eat it when I'm out with friends. And then when I'm alone, I'll stick to like a gluten-free diet. And because it gives me like the symptoms of like a hangover. I just like my stomach feels awful. So then my head feels clouded and awful. I feel like kind of hot. Like, yes.
That is, and I love that you use that analogy of alcohol because I again, I used to be like, no gluten, no, I'm not doing that. And I won't make people eat that way. However, I'm also not going to eat trash ass food with gluten in it. Like, just because we're out, I just don't want shitty food, period. Whether it has gluten or doesn't, like that is my value, like my go-to. I'm not just eating just anywhere just because we're out. Like I want to enjoy it.
Right.
I want it to taste good.
We've graduated from vodka. You know, we've graduated from like the rubbing alcohol we used to drink in college. You know?
Yes, like I have standards. Like,
yeah.
I'm not just throwing shit in my body. But yes. Oh, this has been so good. Oh, I'm so happy. Now, tell me how to pronounce your last name. Is it Bigler?
Yeah. Yeah. You got it. You got it.
I love your name too. I always said I wanted to change my name, Crystal, to my middle name, Lynette. I told Devon that. I was like, I want people to start calling me Lynette. He's like, nobody's gonna call you that shit. I was like, shut up, Devon. But Crystal is just so, I'm gonna keep it. But I always felt like it was so unoriginal. Like it was just like,
I don't know any. I know one other Crystal.
Did she spell it the way I spell it?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But she's like Asian. So like her parents immigrated from Asia, I think from China. And then I guess she had a Chinese name, and then like they made her American name Crystal.
Yep. Which I always found fascinating because we have a really good friend and he's from Nigeria, and we've known him from his American name. And then when he went to college, he actually started telling people his born name. So I asked him, I was like, do you ever like want us to like stop calling you your American name? He's like, no, I think it's kind of cool because when certain people call me by my American name, it tells me like how long I've known this person or where I've known them from. So high school up into college, or even like middle school for him. And then anybody that calls me by my Nigerian name, that means I met them in college and beyond. I was like, that's kind of cool to know, like cool. that parameter. But yeah, that's dope. Yeah. But anyways.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's a good way to like measure time. Have you ever like ran into somebody and then they're like, Shivani, hey, how are you doing? And I'm like, where can I place you? How did I meet you?
Every time when I go to the store, somebody runs up to me and is like, Shivani. And I'm like, no, I was joking. No, all the time, like podcasting. I was in networking groups, Instagram. Like a lot of people don't have their names on Instagram. So I'll remember their face, but I'll know them by their Instagram name. I'm like, fuck, what is their real name?
That's how I start all my like grant applications. Like when I apply to get money from my research, like the opening line will be like, you ever just seen somebody across the street and you recognize them and they recognize you? And then you only have like a certain amount of time as you walk towards each other to recall their name. My boss loves it. He loves that opening statement.
No, like everybody can relate to that. And I'm glad you said that, because when you talked about the social recognition, there was a time where I worked at Marshall's. That was my first job. And I was at the register and there was this guy that was leaving. And I was like, hey, like waving and like, I'm ringing up somebody, but I want to get his attention before he leaves. Finish with that customer, they leave. And I'm like, I'm walking up to him and I'm like, fuck, I don't know who the fuck this is.
This is a real problem. And I think everybody experiences it. And I think we don't talk about it enough because I think like we shouldn't feel so much shame. There's a lot of people to remember, you know, you meet so many people in your life and
so many. And so I ended up telling that dude, I'm like, I am so sorry. I thought you were somebody else. And then I left. like, that's it. Bye, have a good day. But now I'm getting used to telling people like, remind me where we know each other from, or tell me your name again. I'm just giving myself that. And I don't do it 100% of the time, but it's been very it's been so hard, especially when you see someone and you know the other person. So your friend's like, hey, Crystal, you remember this person, don't you? And I'm like, no.
That's the worst.
Like, why would you? No. You do. Remember we did blah, blah, blah. No, don't. Like, and I remember that person felt so hurt. And I was like, I meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
And at that point, me just being honest, like, there's no way I can remember everybody. I just can't. I will tell you, I did remember this person when I saw them again. However, still didn't know their name, but I still remember their face. Like,
I mean,
progression.
It's the most stressful, and I've veered away from this, I think, as I've gotten older. But like, when you do run into somebody who's like, hey, Shivani, and you're like, I can't remember your name and I don't remember where to place you, but I might recognize you. Like, making that split second decision of like, do I just go along with this conversation and hope it just comes back? Or do I like just say, what's your name and where do I place? Like, which way do you go? And as I've gotten older, I've done the latter, where it's like, okay, I gotta like grow up and just like let the person know up front, I don't remember.
Yes.
Because if you go down that first road and then that memory never comes back to you in the middle of the conversation, you're gonna turn into a sociopath.
That part. Because and you start like, and then the other person like, they're weird. Or last time I talked to them, they were like disengaged, and I don't know. But then later it kicks you in the head, and they're like, oh, yeah, remember them? But
shit,
you don't have you have nothing. Like, what can you do with that information?
Yeah.
Let me go message them on Facebook. Like, I remember you now.
They open it on a late Tuesday night. They're like, oh, okay.
Like, so this whole time you didn't know while I was talking about, and you're just nodding along and agreeing you didn't know who the fuck I was. You're crazy.
Yeah, you're crazy. You're crazy. So just tell people up front. They'll be hurt in the moment, but it won't bite you in the ass in the long term.
And they will respect it. If they're your people, they'll be like, I appreciate you saying like you don't remember me. And you get to joke with them later on. And just
take the
release
L.
yourself. Yes, take the L. Take the L. Thank you, Shivani. Anything else you want to leave before we call it quits?
Oh man, I can't think of it. I can't generate stuff on the spot. But you've been like so great and just like sparking these like little bits of memory and like, these conversations. It's so easy to go off track with you. And I mean that in the best way possible. Yes. I mean, like we're so much, such good energy to feed off of. So like, I wish you so much continued success in your podcast. You were such a great interviewer. You were such a great like human being to just connect with. So thank you so much for having me on.
See, Shivani talking that bullshit. She did. And she was able to come up with something on the spot. And I received all of it. Thank you. Like, it means a lot. And like I said, it really does the same for me. Like, bringing up those stories and having that moment with you, a lot of moments, really. Thank you so much for saying yes and being such a dope guest and being so inspirational and just freeing. And I hope people who do listen, like, take those nuggets of what you shared, because that one piece that you shared about anybody can be, go get their PhD. You just have to be curious. Like, that spoke to little Crystal. And I hope it speaks to other people who listen. So thank you.
Yeah. So actually, let me leave you with this. Find me if you are, young, in college, a little bit after college, and you're really interested in pursuing a neuroscience PhD, especially if you're in college, I can help you. Just find me on LinkedIn, Shivani Bigler. Find me on LinkedIn, send me a little message. I always respond to people who are, looking to get some advice about how to get into neuroscience or get into any biomedical PhD. I'd be happy to help. So if you're listening and you're inspired, okay, I'll follow you back.
So then I can connect. I can connect y'all. So I do have conversations with people, and that does spark. I'm definitely making the connection because, thank you for that. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm like here to spread the joy. So let's do it. Yay! More people.
Thank you.
Thanks again. All right.